worked with a lot of CEOs whose businesses had grown, but something had started to feel off, like the machine had outrun the driver.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually look like?
Generally, I suppose that's evidenced by the leadership team, owner, chief exec, whatever, working longer and longer hours. They often can start to almost revert back to doing simple tasks that they shouldn't be involved with. The busier people get, the more they tend to do things that aren't the best use of their time, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's to some extent true. Generally, I will see systems, process, structure no longer fit for purpose. It's struggling. Things are being held together with sticky tape and string type of thing. There isn't. It's just not as organised as it could and it should be. Finances might be getting stretched, absolutely. Sometimes we're beginning to see creaking in terms of customer service. It's just not quite what it was. The teams are overstretched, consistently overstretched. That doesn't work well. So it's the machine is running, but it's running flat out, and it can only run flat out for a certain period of time. And that's the point at which you have to say to people, do you know what, you need a bigger, faster machine to do this. Things have got to change if you're going to carry on like this. So that's the point I have to make to people. The difficulty is that when businesses are like that and the leadership is running flat out, it doesn't really have the time to stop and think about how it's going to change. So my starting point in that situation is to help leaders figure out how they're going to free up some time. It's always my starting point, because they're already working long hours. Nobody needs me to give them another 5 or 10 hours of work a week. Nobody wants that. Okay, so what is it you need to stop doing? What are the things that are no longer your job that you need to stop doing? And that can happen in any scale of business. I've worked with a very large business, big FTSE 250 business, where the chief exec was spending a couple of hours every week booking his train tickets. Why do you do that? Working long hours. Well, I started out the conversation by saying he got home late on Friday night. Okay, fine. Happens. Tell me about your week, and then explain to me on a Friday afternoon he spent 2 hours booking train tickets. Why are you booking train tickets? Well, I go on the train. Yeah, I know that. But why are you booking train tickets? Well, I've always booked train tickets. Yeah, but you've got a PA sitting through that sheet of glass on a very big salary. Why isn't she booking train tickets? I got the, well, I've always booked train tickets argument again. Well, no, this is a nonsense. You're operating on an old habit. You can't complain to me you're getting home 2 hours late on a Friday night, then spend 2 hours on Friday afternoon booking train tickets. You're operating on an old model. Change things. And it wasn't until a very bright, intelligent individual, it wasn't until I pointed this out to him, I could see him trying to defend his argument for a while in his mind, but there isn't a defence to it. He was just operating in a way that didn't make sense any longer. And it was my job to point that out to him. Nobody else was going to.
Is it always a people problem, or is some of this about the structure of the business, how decisions get made, who's accountable for what?
Well, fundamentally, yes, it's always a people problem, because businesses are only, simplistically, a bunch of people getting together to do something. The dream scenario is that you have a very large business, you are the only employee, and you've got 25 or 50 machines in a factory producing vastly profitable things, and there's no staff. That's not the real world. So it's always a people thing. Your job as the leader is to be very good at running your senior team. That's fundamentally your job, to get the best from them and for them to get the best out of their teams. So yes, it's always a people problem, but the people problem can be impacted by systems, by processes, by thinking, by strategy. So it all ties up together, I guess.
What's the quickest fix you've seen make a real difference?
So I had an interesting example of that recently, actually, with a new client. And we did have a pretty extraordinary first session, actually, where we looked at some of the way that this particular individual was operating within the business and their thinking, and why they were always running into the fires to put the fires out. And we examined that, and examined what was the logic behind that. And they had an absolute light bulb moment around the particular challenges that they were bringing to the business. Went away, having taken this light bulb moment on, and restructured how their exec team was operating. And within a couple of weeks, the business had seen a significant difference. So to me, that was an extraordinary moment. And I've had a number of sessions with that client since, and every single time they've referred to it and said, wow, that has really changed things here hugely. It's changed things for me, it's changed things for the team, actually changing things across the business. So yeah, that was a very, very rewarding session. It was a few comments and a few questions that I asked that prompted this line of thinking for them.
So if someone's watching this and recognising their own business, what should they actually do? Where do they start?
Well, I think it's very difficult to make these changes on your own. That's my personal experience. I think it needs a catalyst. It needs somebody from the outside that's going to require you to spend time working on it rather than working in it. And that's largely what I do with my clients. I take them out of their businesses for an hour and a half session or whatever it might be, and get them to think about the bigger picture, get them to stand back from their business. Most business leaders are busy firefighting. It's not your job to fight the fires. It's your job to make sure that you've got the right team to fight the fires. So it is about getting them to stand back a bit. I sometimes say to people that it's my job to grab them by the scruff of the neck and kind of pull them back from the business and go, have a look at it from over here, because it'll look different. And equally, I've said to people on many occasions, nobody, I don't think, in the history of mankind has had their best idea after staring at a screen for 8 or 10 hours. Maybe get out of the business. Maybe go and do something else for a while. Give yourself a bit of a chance to think. Pretty much guarantee that you'll come up with some startlingly good and interesting idea and opportunity.
What does a business look like 6 months after they sorted their fires?
The thing I quite often hear from clients, which was quite interesting, is that within a few months of my working with them, that their team will come to them and say, boss, things seem to be a bit different around here. You seem to be operating in a different way. Things seem to have changed. Who's this individual that you're spending time with? And they explain who I am and position who I am. They go, well, it's kind of working because we've changed. This has changed or that's changed. So quite often the changes they're subtle but quite profound within the business. Interestingly enough, I quite often get senior teams saying, oh, can I come and have a session with James because this seems to be working really well for you. Maybe he can throw some light on something I'm doing. And I'm happy to do that. But I think it's changes across the business quite quickly, are really what I see.